have made quite a bit of financial mistakes already in my 20s, so in today's video I'm going to share with you 5 financial mistakes to avoid in your 20s. Each one of these mistakes can honestly cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, so it's best if you try to stay away from these financial mistakes. That way you don't make the same ones that I did. Hi everyone, if you don't know me, I'm Jules. I'm 24 years old and I make content surrounding personal finance, lifestyle, and travel. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. But let's jump straight into it. Mistake number 1 is keeping up with the Joneses and giving into lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep. This is a real thing, and I feel like social media even exemplifies this. We're constantly looking to the people around us and comparing ourselves to them, like what kind of car do they have, what vacations are they going on, what kind of house do they have, wanting to know so much about other people's lives instead of focusing on ourselves. And I think as humans, we're obviously biologically wired to compare ourselves to others, and it was used as a way of surviving and fitting into tribe dynamics, but I just feel like it doesn't help us really anymore in this day and age. It really only helps us to a certain extent, and then after that I feel like it's just hurting us. Keeping up with the Joneses can be a slippery slope, because when is enough enough? You have a Toyota but now you want a Mercedes, and once you have the Mercedes, a couple years later you want the Porsche, and then after that you want the Ferrari. It's like there's never, it's nothing is enough, and we always just want to strive for better. And that is another thing that we as humans are biologically wired for, is okay, once we hit this goal, we just want to go on to the next goal and the next milestone. And so we're constantly chasing the next thing. Looking to these external factors and materialistic things doesn't really end up filling our cup at the end of the day. And this happiness that you think you have doesn't really end up lasting, and it just keeps you wanting more. Instead of trying to keep up with the Joneses or think you need every nice thing, figure out what you truly want and value out of life, instead of focusing on external factors or materialistic objects to make you happy. Focus on and figure out what you truly value in life, because if you don't know what you value in life, there's going to be all these different things that are trying to pull you one way or another when it's not even something you actually value. Maybe you truly are a car enthusiast and getting a Porsche is going to make you happy, and maybe it's because, and maybe in getting a Porsche, you're a part of a car club. And so that community is really what makes you happy, and being able to share this hobby with other people, then that's great. Then continue to do that. But I really strongly encourage you guys to figure out what it is that you truly value and what you don't care about. Take time to really reflect on your core values and your long-term goals. What is it that you want out of life? Is it financial security? Is it financial freedom? Is it time and location freedom? Hanging out with family whenever you want? I just encourage you guys to figure out what it is that you value. When you know what you truly value, it's easier to ignore all the extra people in the background commenting and suggesting things in your life. For me personally, I had to figure this out a couple years ago, and I really found that prioritizing travel, especially in my 20s and while I'm young, is super important to me. And I know that is like a privileged thing that fortunately I'm able to do. There are pros and cons. I still have a regular car. I don't have the nicest car. I have a stable, reliable car, but I'm not looking to upgrade it anytime soon, because I don't want an extra car payment. And so I know that, trade-off is having, a regular, reliable car, but in turn, I'm able to take some trips that, maybe some other people can't take. I really figured out that traveling is at the top of my priority, and I'm willing to put a lot of money towards this, but in other categories, I'm not spending anything on it. So I would also suggest to limit your social media use or unfollow or block accounts that are contributing to your feelings of wanting more or not feeling adequate enough. And I feel like we often use social media for an entertainment platform and to see what other people are doing, and using it even as motivation, but sometimes that could do the opposite effect and leave you wondering, do I need more? Do I need this thing or that thing? When you really don't. And lastly is to always practice gratitude for the things you do have. Oftentimes we're always striving for the next thing that we forget to appreciate what it is that we already have in front of us. This can really help you appreciate your own life and reduce the desire for the need to want more and more. Mistake number 2 is not having an emergency fund. Life is unpredictable. Just when you think you have it all going, your car just decides to break down when you're already at your tipping point. Or there's a job loss, there's medical bills, whatever. Life is super unpredictable. And you can't plan for everything, but you can plan for the unexpected. And so having an emergency fund is honestly so crucial. I can't stress this enough, how important it is to have an emergency fund and like make it one of your first financial priorities. Not having liquid cash in a savings account can force you to end up relying on things such as credit cards or payday loans when you least expect it. So I just can't stress enough how important it is to have that extra cushion and buffer of savings for when the unexpected does happen. Emergency fund is basically an amount of liquid cash, meaning you could just pull it out whenever you want and spend it on whatever you need to. I personally like to keep my emergency fund within a high yield savings account. This is different from a regular savings account. A regular savings account gives you like 0.01% interest on your money, whereas a high yield savings account gives you around 4% right now. And the only difference is that a high yield savings account is through an online bank instead of an actual physical store. So like think your Chase, your Wells Fargo, those are traditional banks that have a savings account, whereas a high yield savings account is through an online bank. A lot of them you've already heard of, like American Express, Citibank. I personally use Ally Bank and Marcus by Goldman Sachs for my emergency fund. But you can just honestly Google high yield savings account and a lot of different banks will come up. Having an emergency fund is so critical and crucial and should be step zero that you should prioritize this before paying off debts, before investing anything like that. Why? Because if and when the unexpected happens, let's say you're paying off aggressively, a high interest debt. Well, if all of a sudden you have a job loss, you still have $10,000 that you owe on your credit card, but you have no income coming in now, you now have to rely on that same credit card that you already have debt in to pay your bills and make sure you're meeting your needs. Whereas, let's say you have $5,000 already in a high yield savings account for your emergency fund, you can pause on aggressively paying down those debts, just pay the minimums, and use that $5,000 as a cushion to get you through, the next few months while you are finding a new job or whatever it is. You want to be able to have this cash, that way you're not scrambling to put on a credit card, payday loans, ask anyone for money, things like that. That is why it's so critical. And while you may not think like, oh, that won't happen, I'll never lose my job, or, I'm always safe when I drive, like, there's no way I would ever get in a car accident, like, things happen, unfortunately, and not everything is in your control at the end of the day, so it is important to prepare for those kinds of unexpected happenings. So once you open your high yield savings account for your emergency fund, it's best practice to aim to get about 3 to 6 months of expenses into this high yield savings account. I know that can seem daunting, but you can start small, start with $50 a month, $100 a month, until you get to $1,000. And then once you get to $1,000, strive to get 1 month's worth of living expenses, then two, and then three, and so on. This can, honestly take a year, 2 years to fill it up, completely, but little bit goes a long way, and I'm sure you'd be glad that you have an extra $1,000, $2,000 if something does happen rather than zero. Mistake number 3 is having too much consumer debt. Having too much consumer debt can honestly make you feel like a prisoner in your life, and no matter how do I even put this? No matter how many steps forward you think you're doing in your finances, debt honestly starts to drag you back, especially with all the payments that you have to make on your debts and all the interest that's accruing on your debt. It can honestly make you feel stuck in life, make you feel like you can't take any chances, take the job that might be paying you a little less, but that is more fulfilling because, you are thinking you have to pay off your debts or you're gonna be screwed. Here's an example of credit card debt, which is the worst kind of debt to be in because they charge you like 30% interest on your debts, which is honestly insane. But so let's say you have $3,000 on your credit card and you only pay the minimums. Well, it would take you 57 months in order to pay it off, and you end up paying almost $2,000 in interest. That's literally paying 66% of what your starting balance was in just interest alone. So that just goes to show you that even having as little debt as $3,000 is going to end up costing you almost 5 years of your life, and in total almost $5,000 to pay it off, which is just honestly insane. So it just goes to show you that, if you have $10,000, $15,000, you just really want to get on top of it and make sure that you're paying this as aggressively as you can. Once you have your emergency fund set up, it can honestly just cause so much financial stress and anxiety in your life. So what you want to do is you want to pay off your credit card balances in full at the end of the month to avoid interest. But if you do carry debt, it's best to focus on paying this down as quickly as possible. There's two methods that you can do this through. You can either do this through the debt avalanche or debt snowball method. If you need a quick psychological win, I would suggest the debt snowball method. This is where you take all your debts and you pay off the one with the smallest balance first and then work up to the next one. Whereas the debt avalanche method is more strategic in the fact that you'll be paying less in interest over time. So this is where you take all your debts, pay the minimum on all of them except for the one that has the highest interest rate. So let's say you have a credit card that's at 30% and a credit card at 25%. You're going to pay the one that has the 30% first. And then once you finish paying that off, you pay off the one that has the 20%. If you can, you could try consolidating your loans, or if you have credit card debt, try to do a balance transfer to a credit card that has 0% interest for a certain number of months. That way you can try to pay off that as aggressively as you can while you're not accruing interest. But I would just strongly suggest that any debts that you have that are high interest, you just want to get rid of as soon as you can, because it really does add up on how much you're going to end up owing. A balance transfer to a credit card that has 0% interest for a certain number of months. That way you can try to pay off that as aggressively as you can while you're not accruing interest. But I would just strongly suggest that any debts that you have that are high interest, you just want to get rid of as soon as you can, because it really does add up on how much you're going to end up owing. Mistake number 4 is not investing into your retirement and not investing into it soon enough. Investing into your retirement account, especially at a young age, is crucial because you can put smaller amounts of money into your account and it can still compound for a longer period of time, and you can make so much more money than if you were to start 10 years later. To give an example, we have two people, Jessica and Brad. Jessica is 25 years old and invests $200 a month until she's 65, whereas Brad is 35 and he invests over double what Jessica does at $500 a month until he's 65. Who do you think would have more money at the end when they're 65? Now, some of you might think Brad because he's investing over double the amount and he's only 10 years older. Well, you would be wrong. Jessica ends up having more money than Brad, and her ending balance is over $1 million, whereas Brad's ending balance is around $950,000. This just truly shows you the importance of compound interest. Time is really on your side when you're young and you're in your 20s. So even if you can't put a large amount of money in and you think that it's pointless because you can only put $50 a month, like, no, that is so wrong. Everything counts because you have so much time on your side for that $50 to compound and accumulate. So even that $50 can have a significant impact on your retirement account balance when you're 65. You definitely don't want to skip out on investing for retirement, and you just want to start investing for your future, even if it is $25, $50 a month. It matters. It matters so much that in the example I gave, it didn't matter that Brad invested over double what Jessica did. The fact that Jessica was younger made all the difference. And, we can't go back and change time. So I would just suggest that start investing as young as you can. And lastly, mistake number 5 is not tracking your expenses. If you are in financial duress, honestly, the first thing you need to do right away is to start tracking your income and expenses. It's so important. It really keeps you aware of your financial health. Imagine you're trying to lose weight, but you don't know how many calories you're eating each day and you don't know how many calories you're burning each day. How are you supposed to lose weight when you don't know where exactly you're starting at? It's gonna be pretty hard to achieve your goal, right? So you have to be monitoring your caloric intake and making sure you know how many calories you're expending each day, figuring out how many calories do I need to eat each day in order to start losing weight. So That's the same with our finances. How do we know if we're in good standing if we don't even know what our baseline is? I strongly suggest that you start tracking your income and expenses. You can do this manually through a budget tracker. I personally use the Co-Plenty budget tracker, but you can use quite literally any budget tracker. Or you can use apps such as Every Dollar, YNAB, Mint that will automatically track it for you. You just link your accounts to the app and it will track it for you basically. So you want to start tracking your income and expenses, start to figure out, how much you're making each month. If you're self-employed, maybe this is different each month, but you can take a look at a quarterly or a yearly overview instead. Like I mentioned, you can use a budget tracker or an app for this. If you tend to forget what you spend as you're spending it, I suggest to jot it down in your notes app as you're spending the money. That way you don't forget. Or you could refer back to your credit card statements or debit card statements if you regularly use those to see how much and where you're making purchases at. This really just gives you a sense of accountability and awareness on your finances. And you don't have to be super judgmental and be like, oh, I'm doing so bad on eating out, like I'm eating out so much. No, just take an objective approach, especially the first couple months, kind of see where you're spending the most in what categories. And then after 2-3 months, you can kind of fine tune your spending to not spend so much, let's say, on dining out and just be more aware that, you can cook at home a little bit more, things like that. I hope this video gave you some clarity on how to avoid these common financial traps in your 20s, and that way you could set yourself up for a stronger future. It's all about building good habits that pay off in the long run. It's always important to take a look at your financial goals and see where you want to go in the long and the short term, and avoiding these financial mistakes can definitely help you get there faster. If I missed anything or if there's a tip that you have for me, don't forget to leave it in the comments. And if you enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Thank you for watching. Bye.